Hello, this is wmpyr here to do a video response to a video titled, "What is the best EDC knife?" And that original video was, it was a discussion video, and the person doing the discussion, he came out and he basically said that he was not an expert in knife self-defense or using the knife for combat type purposes and stuff. So you know, it was cool that he came out and said that, and he wasn't trying to act like an expert or something that he wasn't. So, you know, I respect that. And so he gave his opinions, and basically it boils down to number one is he felt like rather than focusing so much on the blade style, he felt like the handle was more important. And he thought a nice grippy handle, something that's like made out of G10 or something like that, is important because he was worried that you would get disarmed and your knife taken away from you. And it was really cool because he pointed out some of his favorite EDC knives that's designed not for self-defense but 100% for your daily chores, utility type purposes. And he said a nice slick handle would be great in those kinds of situations, but then for self-defense now things change, so you're looking for different things. So that was definitely a good point that I think that he brought up. And also keep in mind that what he's talking about here is he's not talking about 100% combat, 100% self-defense. He's looking for a hybrid. So this is a self-defense knife that he could still EDC, everyday carry. So this is not going to be like a Rambo knife, you know what I mean? So that was one. He wanted something like a G10 handle. And then the other thing was he thought something with a flipper would be good because fast deployment, and also the flipper becomes a handguard. And why he thought the handguard was important was that when you're doing a stab type motion, it stops your hand from sliding onto the blade. So in that sense, he thought a handguard would be a good idea. So I've been showing you guys this this knife recently a lot. I think this is the M1613 SFG, and I think this one fits right around in that category. EDC wise, this is, you know, not one of their bigger special forces knife. It's definitely one of their more sleeker ones. So it makes it a little bit more EDC friendly. It is a G10 handle, so it is grippier, and it has the dual flippers. So it does have a flipper to help you make sure that your hand doesn't slip onto the blade. So I think this fits pretty much what he's talking about there. But okay, so now I want to share my 2 cents. So first off, he said he was worried about being disarmed, right? So he wanted like a G10 handle, something nice and grippy. I don't think that's really that big of a concern, because if you are going to be disarmed in a real life situation, there's probably not much that you can do about it. So what your handle's made out of is not going to make that much of a difference in that point. You're going to get disarmed. It's probably like your belly down, there's a knee on your back and something like that. Or you're pinned up against the wall and the knife's coming out either way. So the reason why I say this is because in training, I know how difficult it is to disarm somebody, and that's training. I've never done it in real life, so I couldn't tell you, but in training, if you do it with resistance, it becomes very, very difficult. So, and if you get to the point where you are going to do a disarm on somebody, and you're that close to where, you know, boom, I'm about to get the disarm, there's probably nothing that the other person can do. It's the best example I could give you is like in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu submissions. If I get a rear naked choke on somebody and I got it, there's not a whole lot the other person can do. If you get an armbar on somebody, I mean, the next second it's going to be snapping and cracking. So it's kind of like that. If you are to the point where you're going to get a disarm on somebody, there's not a whole lot that they can do. And so I wouldn't worry too much about that. I think having a good grippy nice handle, I think that's important. That's a good thing, but not because of the disarm. All right, that's just my 2 cents. The other thing that this person pointed out was the flipper. So smooth, fast deployment. I mean, who doesn't want that? And then once you do deploy it, about your hand not slipping onto the blade edge, right? As far as that's concerned, obviously that has a lot to do with the stabbing part, okay? And a non-trained individual, okay, stabbing somebody in a self-defense situation, the way that I'm almost imagining is like prison shank, that kind of situation where you're shanking somebody like that, where you're just going to be vicious and going boom, 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 boom. In martial arts, we try to avoid that. To me, that's the equivalent of you get a person and throw them in the ring and make them do tough man boxing. What happens? They swing wildly. They're trying to go for the KO, and they're going 110%. And that kind of tactic, that kind of usage of your technique, or not even your technique, your weapon, whether it's your fist or the knife, is like I said, we definitely try to avoid that in martial arts, because just take a look at kickboxing, K1, professional kickboxing, or even MMA. If you see a guy that just runs up to the other guy and just goes crazy on the other guy, if that doesn't work for you, you're screwed. You've completely did a bad tactic that's going to go against you later on, because you're not going to have a later on, because you're going to be completely spent. Now imagine in a real life situation where there's going to be multiple attackers, or there's so much space that this person could run away from you for a little bit, and then he chooses to come back. You're going to be already out of breath. So it's not a good idea there. And also, because when you exert that much force, you could also hurt yourself. Person who's not normally physically fit because they don't normally train and stuff, and they go 110%, it's not just about they could hurt their fist and stuff. You could tweak your ankle, you could tweak your knee, you could pull something. This is the reality. So I do recommend that you train, and if you train, then you move away from just grabbing the knife and just stabbing like crazy. You kind of move away from that. And so then the flipper it's not necessarily imperative now. Okay, so that's just my opinion. When you do start training and you do start adding techniques in your arsenal, you will lose power. But that's exactly the point. It becomes to the point where you are maintaining your energy level. That's one of the first things, is because in a real life situation, I want to stay calm. I want to stay focused. And if the other person's wild and crazy, then I'm using that against them. I'm trying to wear them down. So anyway, these are my 2 cents. Thank you for listening, and take care, folks.